Good to have you guys on the podcast. Could you tell me a little bit about what you guys do?
Welcome to
Uplink.
So, my name is Bleedn. I have done, so far, only cosmetic mods, and I'm working on starting to learn blueprints for Fallen Order, and I am now an admin, was a moderator for the community server.
I am Solaris. I started the first Fallen Order modding server. I created a lightsaber mod and experimented with a few other model swaps, although I never actually ended up releasing anything. I often don't get to that point.
So we want to talk a little bit about the world of Fallen Order modding and how it differs from something like Battlefront modding. Previously, we've had Mandalorian Business on the podcast, as well as Kate and Delana. That was a really fascinating look at the inside workings of something like a modding community for a Star Wars game. And it was super interesting to me to hear the process of something like that. So to start off, let's go into kind of the differences from something like modding something like Battlefront and then going into something like Fallen Order. What are some of the differences of those two games?
I'll start with an obvious one. Battlefront is made on Frosty Engine, and Fallen Order is Unreal. So the workflow itself is entirely different. I don't have too much specialized knowledge in the workflow, but I do know that the two different engines just make a lot of different workflows.
Yeah, I would say most of the difference comes from the tools usable. With Frostbite games, you're limited to Frosty Tool Suite. That is a community tool, now discontinued. Those are various sorts of modding. Texture swaps and custom textures have been around forever. Custom mesh importing was added in a beta version quite a while ago, but I don't know, that may have been a year. It has not yet been released to the public. Now, with Fallen Order, you get to use the Unreal Editor. Now, Fallen Order does have a few customizations in there that makes compatibility difficult.
Very difficult.
We have yet to work out materials. However, we can do custom code, custom textures, custom animations, and custom models. Compared to Battlefront's custom textures, property tweaks, and for some people, custom models, that's quite a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I should add, for Fallen Order, with a regular game, to my knowledge, for Unreal, it really is as simple as replacing the mesh, just re-importing it. And it should have been with Fallen Order, but I don't know exactly what the serialization issue was, but regardless, in theory, it should be a lot simpler to import into Unreal games than it is for Frostbite games. You know, Fallen Order is weird, so it did take some people having to figure out, like, editing values and hacks, but it just should have technically allowed for a lot more, easier meshes and materials and stuff like that.
Okay, what's the community like over in the modding world for Fallen Order? Because I know definitely one of the things I love is seeing all of the variety in like Battlefront mods, and Bombastic, friend of the podcast, did a really cool video looking at some of the differences, some of the new mods that they've got for Fallen Order, and that was a fascinating look to see.
It's fantastic. Lots of good people, skilled people. I'm really not sure what else to say. It's a great community.
I feel like it is it's a bit smaller than, not a bit, it's definitely smaller than Battlefront modding. I believe they have like 15k or something, and we have 2k. But I much prefer it, and I'd say that there's like an inner workings of about 50 people that are very active. We all sort of just know each other. It's sort of more of a tight community that is well knit. No offense to Battlefront modding, but I feel like, sometimes their server is a little bit chaotic.
Yeah, the size of things, definitely. That's fascinating to hear. I know personally, I really like those tight-knit communities, so it's good to hear that. What is using the Unreal Engine like to create mods? What is the process that you go through to create something like a mod? Whether it's like a full animation mesh design section, or if you just want to do a redesign, what's the differences between those?
From my experience, and I did just start using UE4 for Fallen Order, generally the Unreal Editor is very, it's a learning curve, but generally it's very user-friendly. So watching tutorials and stuff, there's a lot to learn, and it is a little bit difficult to pick up at times, but it allows for a lot of customization total. It's more of a build your workflow than edit something, and although that's technically not true, you're still editing. it feels more like, you get to build your own thing and put it into the game than some mods that I've seen for Battlefront.
So, I have been using Unreal Editor for 5 years or so, mostly just small projects on my own. For Fallen Order, it's largely the same. You use the import button to import meshes, same with textures. Only real difference is you gotta do things the same way Fallen Order does it.
Do you feel even with those like caveats and the specific ways that you have to work around that, do you feel that there is a bright future for the world of Fallen Order modding? Do you think it'll hit the point, or do you feel like there's a lot further that you guys can take it?
I feel both. So I feel very optimistic about the next. I don't want to give a time frame because it's sort of hard to in this kind of environment, but maybe 6 months. I think materials will be figured out. I think just generally porting will be optimized, but I still think that in terms of technicality, we might be near a peak sometime soon, but I don't think that mods themselves, the quality is going to be near peak anytime soon. I think we're just going up, and especially with custom code, found out what was it, a month ago, maybe less, and I'm already working on a jetpack. K-Boy is already making a blaster for the game. Alex is adding a Baby Yoda for a companion. Just seeing that stuff in a month, I think there's so much more that mods are going to carry the game for.
Yeah, we have almost everything doable. Again, custom materials right now are one of the biggest roadblocks. I mean, we're still working on possessing custom characters or pawns. I think the only thing that we may never get figured out is sounds. Not entirely. We have to play back each and every sound file. There's literally thousands of these. Just name them, describe what they sound like, and find them through a big spreadsheet.
Adding on to that, for the head mesh, the one that Cal uses for his head, they don't have his vertex groups named. So usually you'd expect middle jaw or upper forehead. But I don't know, for compression or for whatever reason, they decided to, I'm assuming, model him and animate with names, and then at the end change everything to left head _0006, and they're sort of randomly assigned. It's not even as you go left on the mesher.
This episode of Uplink Podcast is brought to you by It's Not a Tiny House Podcast, a podcast all about alternative living and making it happen. Definitely go give them a listen. Link will be in the description of this episode. You can find it wherever you find podcasts. So what got you guys started into the world of modding? Because I know that's something that with video games and the way that they're made currently, I think modding, especially with Battlefront 2, has been such a huge boom for the game. People get so pumped about the new mods coming out. And we are on the verge of something like that happening for Fallen Order. The kinds of mods that we're getting that are coming out and you guys are making are so much better than even a couple months ago. What got you started in modding?
So Minecraft, maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago. I saw mods, wanted to make my own mods. I learned how to do it, and I did. Over time, I learned to use UE4, basics of how it works. Fallen Order was announced to be running on Unreal. Well, at the time, I did not know too much about modding Unreal games, but I knew certain things could be done.
I'd been following Azatro's weekly mod series for quite a while. That was basically the only relation that I had to mods, though, up until, I think it was 6 months ago, I believe, or 7 or something like that. And Bombastic released a video, and I remember exactly, it was Alex Poe's original Darth Maul mod, and I was like, that is crazy, because I had Fallen Order. I didn't get very far in it, but I love Star Wars, and I was like, okay, but I want to make a Boba Fett mod. And so I sat there for quite a long time at my computer for the next week or two, just sort of learning. And I started with texture mod. Yeah, we don't talk about my first mod. Don't look it up. But, eventually Solaris helped me quite a bit, actually. You pose the whole model, which I still can't do, really. I worked up to getting the Boba Fett into the game.
That's awesome.
And then I just sort of kept going.
Where do you see the future of Fallen Order modding going?
I personally, this may seem a little far-fetched, but I think that, how do I say this? I think that it's going to sort of transform into a bit of a new game, Mm-hmm. Especially with the K-Boy's Blaster mod. I think that is going to be a huge one. I think many of thousands, if not tens of thousands of people are going to replay the game in its entirety, honestly, because now they have a blaster to fight with. And I believe that eventually we're gonna get different things. Like one of the requests was a tight corridor to fight in recently, earlier today. I think that those kind of things are gonna transform the game from like Fallen Order to, well, I'm not gonna name it, but I really think it's gonna feel like a whole different game, and I think it's gonna be the closest thing if you're not too experienced. Like, I'm not too experienced, but I could make a a fairly high quality level per se. Once we figure out level importing, just from the base of Fallen Order, and I could turn it into something that I wanted to see specifically. And I think it'll end up there. I don't know how soon, but I definitely think that's the direction it's heading.
I'm super excited to see what the future holds for the world of Fallen Order modding. Like that, it's such an awesome idea to me. I love Unreal Engine. We've got some future projects in the works here, and I've loved the stuff that Cinematic Captures has done with Unreal Engine and the usage that he has done with that. So a few years ago, I was in the process of learning it, and then I had maxed out my laptop and wasn't able to, at the time, get a PC. So I kind of fell off of it, but I greatly enjoy the whole process of things and looking and seeing what people are making, and I'm super pumped for the future of it. What are some of your favorite mods that you've seen in the game?
Alex Poe's Mandalorian mod.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I feel like that's gonna be a pretty consistent answer if you ask anybody. Yeah, I am. I don't want to talk about it for too long, but I'm just like, Alex just continues to impress me. Aside from the Mandalorian mod, because how can you not answer that? I really like. This is sort of a cheap answer, but honestly, I really like all of the character mods that have come out. Even some of my own. Like, they're not my favorite, but I enjoy being able to play a different game, and I get bored quite easily, so I enjoy that a whole new character gives more replayability. And personally, just like, I'm gonna name like two more.
Yeah.
K-Boy and Karth's audio mods, they give Cal a masked voice, a stormtrooper voice, and a muted voice. They're just so essential for immersion. Like, no matter the case, if you're on a masked character, you slap it on. If you're wearing a character who wouldn't sound like Cal does, you just slap on the mute button. They're just so helpful for my immersion and replayability. And then Hide BD1 that Alex made.
I was also very impressed with K-Boy's Dismemberment mod.
Oh yeah.
That's definitely one of my faves.
It has been talked about for, well, since before the game came out, actually.
Yeah.
I did not see it happening this way. I believe this mod was created before we even had custom blueprints. Now, what I always thought would happen was, when damage is taken to a certain body part, remove that body part, replace it with a ragdoll, drop that ragdoll. What K-Boy here did was, I believe he disconnected the limbs in the physics asset, so when the character ragdolls, just the parts come loose. That is not necessarily the most precise solution, but it's really creative. I did not see it happening that way.
That's awesome to hear. Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite mods. Was watching a few videos on it. What is the process that you have to go through to install a mod? And if someone listens to this episode and sees modding even more, like what's the process of implementing those in your game?
It is a drag and drop. It is very simple.
Super easy.
Yep. If you're on PC, unfortunately, no console mods yet. You simply go to nexusmods.com. You download any mod that you like, and you drag it into your packs folder. Majority of them have where your packs folder should be location. I have it pinned, but if not, I'm sure Google search will get you that. I'm not going to list it, but it is really as simple as a drag and drop.
A lot of mods have installation guides too. I mean,
yeah,
just in case. They're all the same for the most part as far as installation goes.
What's the process like when let's say I wanted to add let's just say here Tommy from Rugrats. What's the process that I have to do to make that model and then implement it into the game?
See, this guy didn't appear in any existing games, did he?
It would have been older games. Like I think there were a few Rugrats games that came out. But let's just say, what about Halo? If I wanted to add Master Chief in there.
All right, sure. So You would either need to extract the mesh from Halo. That really does vary by game, this step. Or you could find a model online. Tons of resources for that if you just want to save some time.
Definitely.
Like p3dm.ru or...
Google.
Yep, sure, Google. So you would get the mesh. This would ideally be in like an FBX format with a skeleton. Everything you need, skinned. What you would then have to do is use UModel. That is a tool by Gildor. It is fantastic. Works for basically every Unreal Engine game out there. To extract Cal's model, you rip it out of the game and you import it into the same scene in, say, Blender as the chief model. So then you're going to want to pose the chief to match up exactly with Cal's model. You want it to be in the same pose. You want the fingers to occupy the same space, all of that. Then you rename all the bones on the chief, and consequently the vertex groups on the mesh, to match those from Fallen Order. And you switch the skeleton. So now, when you move Cal's skeleton, Chief should move with them. At that point, you can delete the mesh for Cal, just not the skeleton. Delete the old Master Chief skeleton. Import it to UE4, set up the textures, then you cook it. You run Alex's Mesh Fixer. You put it in a pack using a tool that comes with Unreal Engine. It's an Unreal pack. And you plop that right in the game's mods folder. And you can, ship that pack to anyone. And it's basically the same every time.
Do you see, now that we've got the resources and more of the learning capabilities, do you see more people getting into the world of modding? I know, like, Minecraft is such a huge world for modding. There are so many different mods.
Bombastic's recent video, I forget the exact title, but he basically said, if you are an Unreal Engine 4 dev, come mod this game. It has so many possibilities. And that brought in, like, I don't know, maybe 75 people, which is a lot from one source. And it's just like, I feel like what he said is just so true. I feel like there's a lot of people who are hopefully gonna get into modding this scene just because of Unity 4 knowledge or because of a passion for Star Wars.
The world of modding is so wide, and I love how, like, oh, you know what? I want this character in the game. If you don't see that available to add, like, right off the bat, you can very easily put that into the game. I love that. So I'm super pumped for the future of the world of modding. Like, even future Star Wars games. Like, I think it'd be so awesome to see as games come out, and with the experience that we have with Fallen Order 1, when Fallen Order 2 comes out, we can see, oh yeah, I've got the experience modding the first game, so I can carry over that knowledge, and then right off the bat, you can start building those mods for the new game. That's all for this episode of Uplink Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. You can support the show on Patreon, patreon.com/Uplink Podcast, to get exclusive content as well as access to Uplink Plus, a monthly exclusive podcast talking all things wider world of gaming, Star Wars, and more. Definitely come check this out and help us support the show. A great free way to support the show is by leaving us a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Anywhere you can leave a review of the podcast, it helps us out a ton and helps new listeners find the show. You can follow us on Twitter at Uplink Podcast, as well as on Instagram, Uplink Podcast as well. Twitter is a great way to keep up to date on all things Star Wars gaming, as well as all things on the show. Also, definitely check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/The Star Wars Battlefront Podcast. We stream every Saturday at, usually it's around 12 p.m. MST. We play Star Wars games, we play Among Us, we play all kinds of fun stuff, and it is a great time. Also, stay tuned for some more content coming to our YouTube channel as we are ramping things up for 2021. Also, if you love video games, Star Wars, plants, and pizza, definitely check us out on Discord. Link will be in the description. Come join our awesome community. You can listen to the show on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify. Wherever you find podcasts, you can find this show. As always, thanks for listening, and may the Force be with you.